All right, let's go ahead and get started. Everyone, welcome to the webinar. This webinar is entitled Adapt, Innovate, Grow, How to Leverage Your Data and Revolutionize the Guest Experience. Hosted by Ascent360 and a team from PGRI. Our goal today is to really talk through how data, information technology, AI is starting to change the ability to communicate and interact with guests within all ranges of hospitality. And we've got a really great group with us today, a bunch of really experienced marketers and people who've been kind of executing on guest journeys, guest communications for years and years. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Scott Bielter. I'm the CEO and founder of Ascent360. But now let's kind of roll around the group with some introductions. And Christian, perhaps you could start and introduce both yourself, but as well as PGRI as an entity, right? What is PGRI?
No problem. Thank you guys. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Yoon, Lindsay, everybody for setting up this webinar. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our business and our relationship with Ascent360. It's been a really important relationship for us as marketers, as a growing company in this hospitality space and schema. So Pacific Group Resorts is an early stage, I'd say, multi-resort company. We're headquartered in Park City, Utah. However, we don't have any resorts in Utah. Our resorts are spread out across North America. We've got a couple representing New England. So Andrew Lanau is with us. He is up at Jay Peak Resort in northern Vermont, which is legendary for its powder and its tree skiing, and it's hard to get to, but incredible snow. We also have Ragged Mountain in central New Hampshire, which is about 2 hours north of Boston. It's a really nice day visit resort. In the Mid-Atlantic, we have Lori Zaloga, who is our director of marketing for that region. We have 2 resorts, one in Maryland on the western edge, almost on the West Virginia border, called Wisp, that services the Washington, D.C., kind of Baltimore, Pittsburgh, metro markets, as well as the region there. And then down in central Virginia, we have Wintergreen Resort, which is services more like Richmond and Virginia Beach, as well as Washington, D.C. metro. A beautiful location in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The resorts in the Mid-Atlantic offer summer, full 4-season resorts with golf in the summer and activities, event programming, and then everybody's obviously a ski resort in the winter. That's still our core focus of our business. Out west, we have Powderhorn Resort on the western slope of Colorado, which serves the Grand Junctions region. And then up in British Columbia on Vancouver Island, yes, there is a ski resort on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. We have Mount Washington Alpine Resort, represented today by Darcy Friesen. It is actually a very cool resort. It's an incredible place to visit and travel to. And it's a substantial resort. It's 1,500 acres, 1,500 vertical, a couple detachable lifts. Really nice operation up there. So we're kind of a developing multi-resort company, as I said. And we are certainly no Vail or Altera or even a Powder or Boyne at this point. We're flying the plane as we build it here, so to speak, and having really strong partners to help us grow and help us realize our vision and sort of outpunch our competition is a partner like Ascent360, right? And we all know that first-party data is incredibly important right now, and so integrating our systems with Ascent360, injecting that data constantly from all of our points of sale, all of our e-commerce points, and having that data, and then having ability to talk to those customers and reach them with a regular cadence, whether it's a promotional campaign or just an automated pre-arrival campaign or a snow report campaign, all those types of things, taking audiences and uploading them into Facebook and Meta and all those platforms as well for all those campaigns. It's really been invaluable to our return on spend and how we talk to our customers and continually improve our customer experience in those communication channels. So we appreciate the time. We've been around for like about 12 years as a company. I think when we started with Ascent360, it was in 2018, and it was at the time it was Ragged, Wisp, and Wintergreen. And since then we've added Powderhorn, and then Mount Washington, and most recently Jay Peak. And so all 6 properties data feeds into one centralized Ascent 360 platform, managed by with the incredible help of Yoon, who's also on this call today. She's an incredible account manager, and we couldn't do it without her. So thank you guys for having this today.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that great introduction. That kind of, I think, really kind of kicks us off in the right way. So let's dive in, right? Our goal today is to have a roundtable, just sort of discuss ideas and concepts. If you're on the webinar, please feel free to chat in any questions, and we can dig into those as well. Maybe we should start with just sort of the sort of high level, right? When we think about guest marketing or data-driven marketing, like what is that? How do you think about it? Lori, I know you've been doing this for a while and are certainly an expert. How would you define it?
So probably 15, 20 years ago, Scott, when we started with you all, guest marketing was something that we just did by guest service. It was more in person, frontline sort of thing. And then we talked about all this data stuff, the data coming in, we've got to get data. And then we had all this data and we didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know how to organize it or funnel it or do anything with it. And along came Ascent 360. And then that data-driven marketing really took definition for us in that it's a way of communicating with segmented guests, which have been captured through one of our integrated sources, which we have several in our platform. And that is attached to a service or product, right? They come into the platform because they've either purchased something, interacted with us somehow electronically, and we've captured them. We've captured essential data to identify them in such a way that we can speak to them directly with things. And so once we assigned on with Ascent 360, we found out that this is very much like throwing darts at a target, as opposed to just throwing darts in the dark. I mean, we really truly before Ascent 360 didn't know who we were speaking to, and the messages were very broad. And now that we can target them, pinpoint them, it truly is a data-driven strategy that we have. So it's personalized and it's geared towards our guest interest is the best way I can define that.
Awesome. So I know, when I think about what data, how much data you guys generate, right? Enormous volumes, right? I think you use Maestro, SiriusWare, Guest Research, Access, Agilicis, Springer Miller Systems, Liftopia, RDP. Like maybe Laura, you could describe a little bit about what sort of data is in those systems, and the sort of information that you have now to go communicate with guests about.
Absolutely. So those are just a few sources that we have in there. There are other few sources, and just mind you, when we created, when we partnered with Ascent 360, it was identifying the sources that were most important, that garnered the most information, and that were actually accessible to us. I'm sure many resorts have and entities have different platforms that may be a little obsolete, that don't have an exact API or way of integrating into the systems. So it is about identifying those partners, vendors, and platforms that can actually speak to each other, so we can get that data in there and map it out correctly. So we have our most important assets of course, us and our sources are our PMS system, our property management systems. So that speaks about our lodging, which is also tied into a few of our activities and services as an all-in-one platform. That Springer Miller system, for the most part, it is a one-stop shop. It doesn't do it all, but it is kind of a one-stop for us. And that's our property management service that we utilize at Wintergreen. And then, of course, all of our online third-party vendors that we utilize for point-of-sale systems. So we try to have the same party that we utilize for our point-of-sale frontline, as well as our online advanced systems. And if we can integrate both of those, frontline and online, to get it into the CDP, it just makes that database way more robust, and we're able to gather more information and, again, map the data that we need. And so that's really the approach we've taken. And slowly through the years, we've been with Ascent since Ascent 360 since 2018. We've accumulated a little bit more and tend to grow those. And to this day, we are still researching some of our different vendors that have not yet come into the source, but we still need that information to continue to market to them.
Awesome. Would anybody add anything to that, right? So, how they think of data-driven marketing. I know, Lori, that was actually a pretty awesome intro to the topic. All right, so maybe it's worth kind of digging into, specific campaigns that you are executing from these things. Andrew, I know you've built a bunch over there at Jay. Do you want to maybe speak to just some interesting campaigns and how the data interacts and how the guests sort of react to those campaigns?
Yeah, we have a range of ways of communication, ways to communicate to our guests, whether it's just like a weekly newsletter that we like to send out to our larger overall marketing audience. And that's just kind of, there's a part of that's kind of a storytelling piece to it, but then underneath that, there's ways to inform guests about events coming up or deals that we are running at the time. And then we get more granular with it too, with being able to take like product services, like the bookings and the golf purchases, for example, in the summertime, and create a very segmented audience that's geared towards people who've purchased into golf for the last 2 years, we'll say. And then I can send something very specific to them, and we see the sales go up. And a lot of our events stuff that we do, you can actually, I'll talk with our events manager, Ted. So we'll do campaigns that are promoting events. Two of the big ones this year were the whiteout eclipse event for the total eclipse that we had earlier this spring, and then we had we did one for the 4-pack of lift tickets that we did early on for selling advanced tickets into the season, and you could see the count going up with those going out. And not only do you have like the start of one where you introduce it, then you can do follow-ups and stay with that audience. And we just kind of track it through either tickets sold or event tickets sold. But it's really easy to create inside the platform. I enjoy working in the builder itself because there's just so many ways to easily customize your designs and really personalize the look that you want to send out to the audience and change it up for different things that your resort's offering. And it's very user-friendly. So I've been very heavily involved with just creating different designs. We run several campaigns though for all kinds of things, whether it's golf, water park, skiing, events, pre-sales. And then we even have our, it's not really a campaign, but our automated emails where we have a 3-day pre-arrival for guests that kind of gives you a rundown of here are the things you can do before you get here, take a look and see what's available. And then a day of arrival just to say, hey, welcome. And then we have a post departure where it sends out a survey that's actually connected to guest research, so we can take more data from the surveys on top of what we already have from them and get a better idea of their guest experience.
That's awesome. So when you sort of referenced a packed product, right? I think you said it was a 4-pack. How do you define the audience for who you want to send that to, right? Was that sort of segmented on people who were already buying lift tickets, or how did you kind of approach that?
Yeah, we segmented that up into past lift ticket sales, people who purchase in, and you go far enough back where it feels relevant and you're not reaching out to people that you haven't talked to in a very long time, and they would be like, why are they hitting me up? But so we kind of go by the date range and the product that people have purchased into, and that's season pass holders too. So you have or the people who have booked into a lodging, that might be relevant if you think it's relevant to add that into the audience you're building for that campaign. So we do a mix of both, or we'll do one or the other, and it really depends on knowing your audience and what seems relevant to you and your company.
Yeah, so I think the logic there is, I think you're saying, hey, if you know they're going to be coming to the resort because they've booked a hotel and maybe they don't have a season pass, you're like, these are obvious people to buy a 4-pack because they're going to ski some number of times. while they're
Yeah.
there.
Even going ahead of, seeing someone we know they're going to book like 2 weeks out in March, and we're in February, and we want to get some other cool things happening that in front of them, so we can actually target a date range of their booking that's not even happened yet, to get some information in front of them before they arrive, on top of the stuff that we have automated that's already going out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then you spoke a little bit about a sort of post-departure automation where you're trying to get guest feedback. And I'm guessing that happens after someone leaves. But what do you do with that data that you get back, right? If people give you high scores, do you do something different than if you get low scores, or how do you try to bridge that?
Yeah. One of my coworkers, Molly, she takes all the survey data, and we kind of put it into buckets and try to paint pictures or see patterns in good and negative experiences, or where we can improve. And then you can apply that to how you communicate back out to guests next time, or make some corrections in the products or services you're offering too.
Yeah, awesome. So Darcy, I know you're up at Mount Washington. Maybe you could speak a little bit about how Mount Washington approaches this.
Sure. Thank you for having me here today. I'd like to talk about like the last 3 emails that we sent out, our Seasons Pass last chat sale, which was I think very successful. We were able to segment our guests that hadn't purchased, and we recognized that we still had a significant number of people that would, we'd like to, have purchased for this season. And we sent out 3 emails a week apart, trying to keep repetition going, trying to be in their mind. And we sent them out. We personalized segments so that we could make sure that we didn't overlap people that already purchased. So we were able to use the audience builder to suppress guests that already purchased, which is a great way to, make sure that we don't over email our guests. And so we generated a very successful campaign doing that. So we had a last chance email, which generated an extra 146 passes. Some of our other ones are, our snow reports. We send them out daily. We had another campaign that was very successful as well with our 6-packs, trying to get people to provide us with their data. This ticket goes out to our guests, and we had them send in a contest, which we collected their data. We then used a webhook to integrate with the Ascent 360 to collect that information, so we could properly put them in different silos. So I think the Ascent 360 platform is great for doing all these features and making sure that we stay in contact and with our guests.
Awesome. So
Scott, just to add to that, I think the last, Darcy's mentioned the last chance sale is a very relevant to the, because we honestly we couldn't do that campaign without a platform like Ascent 360, right? Because you don't want to, as he said, you don't want to hit folks up that have already purchased. You don't want to hit up. You want to make sure that you're honing in and you're only sending those communications to folks that have owned a product in the last 2, maybe 3 years, have yet to renew, missed the first deadline, and the price has gone up, and kind of going back to them and saying, hey, we recognize you, we want you back, and we're going to give you one last chance to get the original price point. But it's only for you, and it's only for a limited time. We do direct mail, actually on top of that as well in some of the resorts, and with something in their physical and their mailbox, backed up with a couple emails. And across the enterprise, it's a fairly light lift, and it generates like $250,000 in sales attributable to that in a time when people aren't typically transacting ski passes.
It's a great example of the use we could do to suppress people who already purchased and target people we need to.
I would imagine if you didn't suppress the people who've already purchased, they're either going to be really annoyed because, like, why are you sending me another email I already bought, or it's probably going to generate some amount of customer service calls like, hey, what's going on? I already bought my pass. Did that not go through, or did it not work? So both of those things can happen, right?
Absolutely. And it's more of it's a frustration for the guest, which we don't like, but it's also egg on the face of the resort and not doing our homework and making sure that we've got everything buttoned up and we look good and we look like we know who's purchased and we're sending out the right communication. To Christian's point, we used email, direct mail, but we also use phone numbers, and that comes directly from Ascent 360 and knowing that we have phone numbers to contact people. And we did at Wisp, we did a courtesy call, which seems very old school, but the amount of people that were pleased to hear from a very friendly voice to say, hey, a courtesy call to make sure you didn't miss this price point. Do you want to renew? Guests were amazed that people still call. It wasn't a telemarketer. We weren't asking about your car warranty. It was literally, we want to make sure you get the best price of the year. So we used all three of those contact points from Ascent 360 and like Darcy said, whittling down that list to ensure we were contacting the right people.
That's awesome. Now I love the sort of multi-channel approach. We have done studies in the past to say, well, if you do email and direct mail combined, it's just going to work better, right? There will be an increased conversion rate, and I would imagine that the phone piece adds something delightful also, right? Which is you're not selling warranties, right? You're feeding people's passion. They're probably glad to hear from you, right?
Yeah, and we also got some feedback of like why they weren't purchasing, which we note and we pass along, to management and everyone who makes decisions. And or thank you so much, I did miss it. I was out of the country or washing my hair or whatever the excuse was. But they were appreciative of it. So I think it worked for everyone.
And I'll add, from the marketer perspective, you're being more efficient with your marketing spend, right? We're not talking to the people who've already purchased, and you're really being efficient with that spend.
Yeah.
We mix the two. We do the season pass holder gift appreciation gift, and we're able to send an email out just to that audience. Hey, this is coming to you. Here's their gift, and then being able to send the direct mail on top of that. It's a nice way to kind of reassure them that something's coming. We're still doing this, and we still care, and then it shows up in the mail.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories, actually outside of hospitality, but a client of ours, before they used us, they actually sent, there was a large bike chain, right, 25 stores or something. They sent an end of summer email that said, hey, if you buy a bike, we'll give you 20% of the value in accessories. And of course, they sent it to everyone right before they used us. And everyone who bought a bike that summer called them and said, like, where's my 20% of accessories? And it ended up costing them tens of thousands of dollars in trying to keep clients happy, or customers happy. They're like, literally, I bought a $5,000 bike 2 weeks ago. do I get that offer also? And so you can also exclude people that meet that criteria if in fact you're offering a different offer to somebody else.
And proof is in the pudding. I mean, we get a few. I mean, we definitely hear from a couple customers, usually at each property, that got wind of the deal, and they might call in and complain. Of course, we honor the price, but it's shockingly few, people that getting that after they already bought at a different price point or whatever.
Yeah. What about sort of personalization within this context, right? So I think so far we've talked a little bit about segmentation, right? Let's not, if we've got millions of people we could communicate with, let's not do that, right? Let's talk to only the people that's most relevant. But once you've segmented, do any of you do any personalization, right? Say something about the number of times they've scanned their pass, or just use their first name or that sort of thing.
Absolutely. In the subject lines, whenever possible, make sure the content is absolutely relevant to them. But open rates are going to go up when they're personalized. We all know that. Clear and concise messaging to our guests with relevant content is going to make sure that these people are staying tuned in as well. So, but personalization is key, And going forward, I'd like to see more of that used.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, something that it's not necessarily for the new customers or bringing in, but even just having we have our newsletter to our general marketing audience. And then we're working on developing one that's just for pass holders, like a pass holder newsletter that might just have personalized information that's geared towards them for things to look forward to for the season or their pass party that we do at the beginning of the year. And we're developing one for our homeowners on property as well to kind of keep them, so just to also feel valued, feel appreciated, and speak to a specific group of people that are living here part-time, full-time.
Yeah. So you're saying you've got some sort of perks for pass holders, right? So if they're a pass holder, it doesn't just come with, full access to the mountain. It comes with some other things, and that's that sort of group you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that and pass holders, I think, for all of our properties, and correct me if I'm wrong, they want to feel special. They want to be spoken to differently than, say, a single ticket or multi-day ticket holder, or even a 4-pack holder. They've got more skin in the game. They're our most loyal guest for the most part. And so they want to know more about the mountain than anyone. They want to have the inside intel. They want to know about, capital expenditures and what we're improving and upgrading. They want to be the ones to know because it's their resort, it's their home resort. So they feel special when we tell them about all those different things that we're doing for the upcoming season. That way they can tell their friends, hey, my resort's doing this, this, and this. It's bragging rights, right? I mean, who doesn't want to brag about their home mountain and what they're doing and improving?
Yeah.
So it's really important that we talk to pass holders differently than we do our other clientele.
Yeah. You know what I'd love to kind of dig into a little is, like, we've talked a lot about the passes and, if you will, the sort of access to skiing, but I know you all are really running massive operations, right? I know you've got water parks, you've got golf, you've got hotels, you've got even river rafting and all sorts of activities, events and music, all that sort of stuff. How do maybe one of you could kind of dive into one of those other topics, right? How do you fill the hotels, or how do you get people to the events?
I'm happy to speak to it for the Mid-Atlantic.
Sure.
So spring, summer, fall, we have a very robust 4-season resort at Wisp and Wintergreen. And so I think for us, spring, summer, fall is all about lodging packages, right? We want to give them a reason to come and stay, but also play. So it's about combining those two things in the most convenient, affordable package for them. And that's really the hook that we try to utilize. And then once they're there, those pre-arrival emails, which is 3 days and 10 days out, tend to upsell and cross-sell, and that's what we call cross-pollinate. And so once they're there for that specific package, then we can upsell them to other things, and that's in that pre-arrival email. Also, it goes along to our advanced sales strategy of we want to get them all reservations and all of their bookings ahead of time before they arrive to ensure that they've got their whole itinerary and vacation planned out to make it easy and convenient. Plus it ensures and a bit weatherproofs us in our operations. So that's a lot of our strategy, spring, summer, fall for the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, no, that's super sophisticated. And then on some level, it probably makes the guest happy too, right? Because if their vacation isn't buttoned up and they realize, shoot, I came and whatever, there's no tea times on the day I want to go or something, then all of a sudden they've sort of missed some part of the vacation experience.
Yeah, and the happier they are and the better their experience, the more they'll come back. So that's the end goal.
Awesome. Young, I know, one of your kind of core role is to be sort of a strategist to help the different resorts with these ideas. Can you speak to a little bit of, like, what are the key components of a data-driven marketing strategy?
Sure. I'd say, firstly, you need to be able to collect the data. And of course, in PGRI's case, it's very complicated. As both you and Lori spoke to, they have numerous different data sources that all need to come together, their e-commerce, their point of sale, PMS systems. And then from there, I'd say you need to build a strategy that includes personalization and targeting. And of course, you need to be able to measure performance and optimize those campaigns along the way. And more importantly, data privacy, compliance, critical components. And of course, you need the right marketing automation platform or tool to bring all that together. And then most importantly, I'd say you need a team, like the PGRI team that cares about doing all this, believes in it, and is willing to attack it. And, for me, I'm just here to help support with all these ideas and the team as well.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I do agree with the team piece, right? When I started in this business a long time ago, most marketers were very sort of creative brained, and we're always thinking about ways to sort of enhance the message. But I think that is still totally required today. But it seems that marketers today also need to be very, very left brained and willing to dig into data, look at what's working, what's not working, and make decisions based on that to then flow back into something that's very creative. I don't know, Darcy, do you maybe want to speak to a little bit of how you navigate all that complexity in terms of like data that you look at to say, is it working? And then how does that feed back into some decision you make afterwards?
Definitely. I think understanding our challenges is very important. We like to try and do some A/B testing to see what works, what doesn't, test and retry. Our biggest challenges are getting quality data in order to make sure that we're speaking to our guests and telling them about information. We have security concerns, and those are always addressed. And we make sure that we don't have too many silos, too many things that are orphaned in different areas. So bringing everything together with Ascent 360 has been great. We were able to bring our RDP, our Seriousware, our other platforms, social media, bring it all together, and then make sure that we don't have that low quality data, that we now have good data that we can send out and keep our customers and improve the communication that we have with them. Having Young with us has been amazing, and she's definitely helped in every step of the way. So it's been it's a great partnership between us.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's kind of good to sort of ingest. One of the things that I've been thinking about, which is, the COVID experience was really destructive across hospitality, but if there's any sort of rays and shoots of light that came from it, my sense is it's probably some of the hospitality technology and the ability to sort of acquire data, right? And I know that sort of data acquisition is really, really the most foundational piece of any data-driven marketing strategy, right? If you don't know the guest and you don't know what they've done, then you can't speak to them about it. Maybe we could kind of talk to how COVID changed that, right? People registering all sort of e-commerce that happens up front, and then maybe just how you guys think of data collection and any sort of database growth strategies that you have.
I can address it, Scott, just on a holistic PGRI worldview. COVID in our industry dramatically changed how the customer interacts and transacts with us, right? And at the time, I'd say, there's some resort companies that were probably more advanced than others, but by and large, most lift ticket transactions were happening offline, right? They were happening at the ticket window, and they were old school, and people were coming up and buying tickets, and that all got flipped on its head with COVID, as we've all went through, right? And so we had to scale up these e-commerce funnels very quickly, and we had some great partners that helped us do that, and then really just moved the lift tickets transaction to an advanced purchase online, and so we made some massive acceleration there in terms of training the customer to buy online in advance, giving them a discount to do that too. And that's something we've implemented more in the last few years, is like, hey, look, You know, if you're gonna walk up to the window at one of our resorts, you're gonna pay a premium to do that transaction. We're gonna give you a break if you buy online in advance, and that will help us capture data, and it will help us know how many people are gonna be on the hill. On a busy Saturday, we will stop selling lift tickets to protect the customer experience. And we can't do that, and we can't know that without having that some semblance of understanding of how many folks are going to show up that day. And we don't do that universally across all our properties, but definitely the ones that have tighter carrying capacities and peakier weekends. So moving, you know, unfortunately, I think there has been a regression a bit since COVID. Now I think people have gone back to being a little more spontaneous and maybe waiting to the last minute. Mount Washington is a good example. It's very weathery there. So people will often want to wait because they just don't want to, they want to make sure the weather is going to be okay. But then on the flip side, Wisp, where Lori spends a lot of time, they've like 80% of the tickets are sold online in advance. And of all of our resorts, they are doing that the most. And they've really trained their customer, because guess what? On a Saturday, a peak Saturday in core season, you probably won't be able to buy a ticket because we will sell out. So the customer's been trained, and they're buying upwards of like 14 days in advance just a lift ticket. So we've got kind of two spectrums. I think the whole industry is continuing to move in this direction, and obviously getting people into subscription and passes and 4-packs and whatever else there is in advance, but also the online lift ticket purchase as well. And that's really helped us massively grow our database, like double-digit growth every year. And that gives us that tool to have that first-party data to go in and market to them.
Yeah, what an amazing asset to build, right? Not only are you you know, getting funds in advance, you then also know that, you know, how busy a Saturday is going to be, even the ability to slow it down because you want to, you know, maintain that guest experience, right? We've all heard some stories about some Colorado mountains that were just absolutely overwhelmed with people, and it's not a great experience for anyone. So if you're managing that, that's, you know, that you're like sort of moving into, you know, how does marketing affect operations, which is pretty cool. So the you know, I'm kind of thinking, you know, in terms of database growth, you're not only growing the number of people in the system, you're growing like what you know about them and your ability to kind of glean insight into their behaviors, who they are, what they're interested in, all those sorts of things as well, right? Even you know, if they have a family, if they've got kids, all those sorts of things. Are any of you doing, you know, campaigns that are like that, to say, you know, like, hey, we know it's a family, we know they've got kids, let's talk about junior lessons or any of that sort of stuff?
Well, there is something in Ascent 360 which is called RFM, and I don't know if Scott or you want to explain that, but I tend to look at that quite often. If I've got a list that's either too broad and need to whittle it down to say, I know that we need to speak to our really loyal guests or people that do frequent us, or there's a certain spend, which I typically don't look at monetary. It is interesting though. But the amount of recency and frequency. Jung or Scott, do you want to talk about the RFM and how that impacts and how that is calculated within Ascent 360? Because I do look at that quite often. I may not utilize that data, but sometimes it helps in segmenting things.
Yeah. Do you want to take it, Jung, or you want me to?
You go ahead, Scott.
Okay, great. So our RFM actually is great, right? It is effectively a best customer score, and it asks sort of 3 questions, right? How recently has the customer purchased from you? How frequently, like how many times have they purchased? And third, how much money have they spent with you? And so because we're pulling in all the data from all these systems, right? From the water park, from the hotel, from the mountain, from golf, all of a sudden we can calculate those metrics, and you actually give a score of 1 to 5, being 5's the best for you know, recency as an example. Like the most recent customers are a 5, the least recent are a 1. And if you put all that together, what you actually get is 125 equally sized groups of customers, from your absolutely best customer, which would be a 555, all the way down to your least best customer, which would be a 111. I don't want to say worst customer because it doesn't really mean that, but it's the ones who, you know, haven't visited in a long time, haven't spent money, and haven't purchased frequently. And I agree, it's a really, really good score that is predictive, meaning it will predict who will buy next. And if you do, in fact, want to whittle down an audience, it's a really, really great way to do it.
So between that and then using filters, which Jung is so helpful with those big lists. So if we take a huge broad list and say, all right, we need to narrow it down a little bit to be more targeted, we can use RFM, and then we can put in, you know, some filter on there, like have opened an email or interacted with an email. But like I said, it's like throwing darts almost. And so we can get really fine tuned with those complex audience builders and just the tools that are within Ascend 360, which is helpful. We didn't have that before. We had just this big, you know, cloud of data that we didn't know what to do with. And now we're starting to like, you know, pinpoint the lightning and strike down where we need to. Yeah.
Awesome. One maybe other question, Kristen, I know you actually mentioned at the beginning that, you know, you can push audiences into Facebook and into Google. You know, have any of you had any sort of recent experiences with campaigns that you've run out of those to specific guests that, you know, is worth digging into a little bit?
Yes, I think we are.
Go
ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, sorry. The fact that you can take a list that you built inside Ascend 360 and then you can export it, or you could have the agency you're working with, you could send it to them if they're already connected to your social accounts on the business side, and just be able to send that, push that source list of the targeted audience you want into Meta for us, and then use that as a source list to build a lookalike audience. Now I'm not just building lookalike audiences from one platform within JP or from one that's just pulling from lookalike followers that are already on social. This is taking something that's totally outside of it, very intimate to us, and being able to then use it as a baseline to target the same quality level of those people across our Meta channels.
Awesome. And so what you're effectively achieving there is you are expanding the sort of reach into prospects, right? So not just customers making repeat purchases, but now you're talking to people who might become customers, and now you know that they may become customer because they look just like your, you know, really good customers. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, and just the robustness and the ability to go very granular with the audience builder and complex audience builder inside Ascend, and knowing and having confidence that this list that you've made as a source list can then be applied elsewhere.
Awesome, I love it.
I think Andrew talked about something that's important, I think, is that, you know, your agency partner, right? So Ascend's your CDP, but then we work with several different digital media vendors or agencies, if you will, to help us take that data and then push it out through Meta and Google and YouTube and all those other channels. And then I think we mentioned earlier the importance of tracking too, right? And making sure that we're pixel tracking through to conversion on all these different e-commerce funnels, and that we can really have a really good understanding of what our return on ad spend is for the paid efforts. And we know that the email efforts and some of the other stuff more on the organic side is some of our best ROI initiatives that we do tactically as a marketing department.
Yeah. I think kind of what you're describing is, hey, if you take your team, then you add technology partners like Ascend, and then you add the agency partner, you all of a sudden have a really large, very sophisticated marketing team that knows, you know, way more than, you know, just one team could. So you're effectively acting, you know, maybe like a marketing team might at a Hyatt or something like that, even though you don't necessarily have that size team, right?
Absolutely. We run lean as these guys will attest, we are a very lean and scrappy organization, and I can't stress enough how important our suppliers and vendors are to us and our agency partners. They're extensions of our team. For sure.
Yeah.
Ewan's our third office mate.
All right, so just looking at time, we don't have that much time left. I'd love to shift to sort of a future look and how we think about the future, and then see if we have any questions from the folks listening to the webinar. So starting with the future, right? So I think the question I've got is sort of what trends do you see emerging in database marketing over the next few years, or what are you sort of excited about as it evolves? Anyone want to take that one?
I think it's a great question, Scott.
Do we see AI?
Yeah, exactly. AI would speed the next evolution of that.
Yeah. I can talk more about the AI-driven upsell, cross-sell. Here at Ascent, we're launching our SMS tool, and it's going to have the ability to allow guests to respond to the AI regarding their stay, regarding the activities that they're doing while they're staying with you, their accommodations, or anything that they might need assistance with, or they just want answers to, like in real time, really quickly. And then we'll take that a step further with AI having access to e-commerce APIs, and this will, analyze customer purchase behavior and their preferences in real time, and we'll be able to do things like check reservations, book golf tee times, book spa appointments, and it will really just take that and enable personalized upsell and cross-sell recommendations, like just a step further, and we're super excited about that. So yeah, definitely AI.
Yeah. So when you're saying that, I think what you're describing is, hey, look, we've got enormous amounts of data in the CDP, right? All customers, all transactions, and you start to train an AI on that, plus train an AI on the things that you know about the resort, right? When it's open, where the hotels are, you all of a sudden have you've got something that actually can extend us a little bit further into this data-driven marketing, right? It's all of a sudden you've got the ability to interact and communicate with an AI in the same way you might as a human, like how Lori kind of spoke of it earlier, where she said, look, back 15 years ago, it was just guest services doing this, right? They knew things and they could talk to the customer. They could explain, what might benefit the guest or where the guest might want to stay. And now an AI can do all that. And now maybe it looks like, the true sort of one-to-one, or you've got, what's effectively thousands of AIs talking with thousands of customers.
I think too, to add to that, Scott, I think for a company like ours, where we have limited resources and limited bandwidth at the properties, we don't have a team of data analysts sitting in a corporate tower, going through all of those millions of records, right, and finding those morsels of data that to go market to those folks. You can use BI tools that you guys help us provide us, but you got to have people to input that and actually execute it. And we typically have been strained in our resourcing to be able to do that. So I think AI, leveraging AI for some of that stuff to be able to do some of those types of data pulls and analysis will be super valuable to a smaller enterprise like ours in the future. And it will give us, again, it levels the playing field a bit. It allows us to be able to analyze that data and use it actionably in our marketing efforts in the future, in our customer service communications. And I'd also like to, I think the SMS thing's big too. You guys are rolling that out. We're piloting it up at Mount Washington this summer. I know Wintergreen, Lori's worked with another vendor there to do some SMS texting back and forth with some of our front desk folks and other business lines of unit folks. and have some AI canned responses as well into those. So for folks that are arriving in resort, to be able to SMS and text back and forth with somebody or ask questions has been very helpful. So I think that's definitely the future of where we see these developments going in the future, in the next few years with you guys.
Yeah, I love it. That is a big piece of our product roadmap, and we're excited to roll that out. And interestingly, I think all of us here together who've been working in this data marketing world for a long time are all of a sudden blessed with some tools which really will be able to take it to the next level. Anything else we should touch on here, or should we sort of move to some customer questions?
Questions are good.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's do that. Anyone on the line, please put a question in the Q&A box, and we will go ahead and answer some of those questions. All right. So the first question is, hey, what's been the journey of getting to where you are today, right? It sounds like you guys are pretty sophisticated. What's been the path to get there over the past few years? Anyone want to take that one?
I mean, I think I can certainly speak to that one, because again, we started, Scott, with pen and paper, collecting data entry, paying people to enter the data. And then of course the early alts saw us, a lot more email, a lot more data coming in, a lot more collection, going to online purchases. And again, we're just gathering. We're just filling those buckets full of data, and we didn't know how to utilize them. And so our business was still growing, so revenues were great. We're still doing our marketing thing, but it's like, where do we go to the next level? How do we get there? How do we communicate to our guests? We have all these 4 seasons, and we still didn't even know how to segment them. So I think that's really the eye-opening portion of like, okay, we have this huge business and it's 4 seasons, and we have to talk to them all differently. And then we have all these products and services that we keep growing. We added mountaintop whitewater rafting, which no one in the world has that at Wisp. We have, 2 golf courses now. We've got endless mountain park activities, from zip lines, canopy tours, everything. And so we keep growing, as is our database, and we just didn't know how to handle it. And it's quite an investment from a marketing standpoint of, purchasing and investing in the CDP, but it was all worth it, because once we got it in there, and granted, there was a learning curve for us. It was definitely like, we had all this information, and now we need to learn to use this tool. And so that was definitely a learning curve. But I think now that we're there, we've definitely, we crawled, we walked, and I think we're now starting to jog along in our journey. And I hope, with Jung's help and, your assistance, that we'll be sprinting in the next year or 2 with really what the future looks like for our businesses and our resorts. Because, we see our resorts as inside of our resorts as separate businesses. So our spa is a business, our golf is a business, our lodging is a business, like all these different businesses, marketing is in charge of, we support. And it was hard to do so without having all of this information chopped up and, sliced and diced. And now we're targeting people much better, and we understand the customer much better. So I think that's kind of our journey. We're still on the road. That's never, we're never going to get to the end point. But I think we are definitely further along in our journey for Wisp, at least, and Wintergreen.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question. And someone's asking, do you guys work as a team, or do you work independently? How do you sort of operate all this complexity together?
Well, we're not corporate, so we each have our own marketing teams on site, and then Jung really is kind of our leader. She's our success manager that heads up a lot of our strategies. She helps us, do, everything from the tactical daily stuff to like long-term strategic stuff. Jung is beside us 100%, 105% at that. So I think that's the best I can explain our teams. Guys, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll just say, I think what you said was awesome. And as someone on the other side of it who's just getting into the Ascend 360 with the audience builder and learning the ropes this year, I think it's just been, prior to that, we had disconnected services, and having the design piece integrated with the audience builder and then learning how both of those work is pretty seamless. And I think one of the big things is understanding our product hierarchy. So like myself getting more of a stronger understanding in how those look from a service and product standpoint and how that would relate to who I want to talk to. But working with you has made that less scary, and I think it's empowered us to do a lot with very small amount of people. So still learning, still enjoying the process, and it's just really nice to see it all under one roof. And
awesome. Well, with that, let's call it a day. This has been a great discussion. I'm totally blown away just getting to hear all of the awesome things you guys are doing and how deep it really goes. So I really thank you guys for digging in with me and having what turns out to be kind of a fun conversation.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Great.
It's a great partnership.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
I know.